Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by the Little Shaman Healing. That's me, the Little Shaman. Today I wanted to talk to you about rebuilding self-esteem. Lots of people have asked me about that, and I wanted to address it on the show. Now, rebuilding self-esteem is a multifaceted process, and it does take time, but I wanted to share with you one technique that can help a lot. This technique also helps combat learned helplessness, which is often a large component in the breakdown of self-esteem. We all know what self-esteem is. It's how you feel about yourself. But just as a quick refresher, learned helplessness is what happens when a person has been unsuccessful in meeting their own needs or changing their own situation for so long that they don't feel there's any point in trying. They have learned to be helpless, in other words. It's conditioning that is often the result of abuse, and it can be difficult to break, especially when someone doesn't realize it's a problem, and especially in conjunction with low self-esteem. It's sort of a vicious cycle that just feeds itself. The way to start repairing both of these things is to take control, both of your life and your feelings. No one is responsible for your feelings or your life but you, and no one can fix these things but you. A great way to start doing that is by making goals. They don't have to be anything big or fancy. In fact, it's better to set smaller, more achievable goals if you have had some trouble with self-esteem or learned helplessness. If your goal is large, you can break it down into steps so that it's less overwhelming and you'll have more of a sense of accomplishment as you achieve each step. For example, let's say your goal is to move out of your family's home because you have a narcissistic parent. To do this, maybe you would need to become more self-sufficient. Now, become self-sufficient is a great goal, but there's a lot to that and it can seem very overwhelming. So maybe you would break it down. What do you need to do to become self-sufficient? Well, maybe you need a job, so that can be goal number one. Maybe you need a driver's license, so that could be one of your goals. Doing it that way helps break down something that seems overwhelming and impossible into smaller things that are totally achievable. Doing it one step at a time is much more manageable than facing everything at once. You can't do all the steps at once anyway, so it makes sense to look at it one thing at a time. Another example would be if your goal is to save $5,000 to put as a down payment on a new house. That $5,000 can look pretty big when you're starting at zero. So maybe your goal can be to save $400 a month, or maybe $100 a week, or however small you need to break that down. The point is not about the size of the goal, it's to feel a sense of achievement, and that comes when you feel you're making progress. If you don't have any larger goals right now, that's okay. You can make a goal out of anything. Today I will go the whole day without eating sweets. Or today I will clean out my car. Or today I will not think negative thoughts about my life. And actually tomorrow, I think we'll talk about negative self-talk because that plays a big role here as well. When you achieve these goals, it helps to remind you that you're not helpless, that you can make decisions, and that you can effect change. You did effect change. Your car was dirty and now it's clean because of you. Some people might not think that's a big enough goal to matter, but I'm here to tell you it all matters. It also helps you feel better about yourself when you accomplish what you set out to do. This way of thinking is especially helpful when you're trying to break trauma bonds and separate yourself from narcissistic or otherwise toxic people. As with any other type of addiction, thinking about the whole situation can be very overwhelming, and this can lead to just giving up because it seems too hard. So focus on what needs to happen to successfully get through the week, or the day, or the hour, or however you're looking at it. Deal with things when you get to them. Don't worry obsessively about something that hasn't happened or that isn't going to happen for a long time. Fear and worry contribute hugely to feeling helpless. So while of course you have to be cognizant of consequences for the things you do, worrying excessively about them does not help when making a decision or dealing with one that you've already made. Worrying about something never made it any easier. It never changed the outcome. Worrying can actually induce a type of fear paralysis where someone psychs themselves out of doing anything at all. Consider the outcomes of what you're doing and prepare for them as best you can, but don't borrow trouble. Deal with things when they happen. Just because you think something's going to happen a certain way doesn't mean it will, and even if it does, you can handle it. You're not as fragile as you think you are or are afraid you are. I mean, you made it this far, right? There is something they use in Alcoholics Anonymous. And they call it the serenity prayer. You may have heard it. It's God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. That's very, very important. And I think it's something that everyone should really try to work on. There are some things you can't change. And there are some things that you need to do no matter if the outcome is unpleasant or not. There are some things that you can't change no matter what. The last line in that prayer or that little saying is probably the most important thing, the wisdom to know the difference. Accept the things you can't change and change the things you can. So for some homework, why don't you write down a few goals for yourself? They can be daily, weekly, monthly, a one-time thing, however you want to do it. They can be anything you want. Keep them with you or hang them on the mirror or however you need to do that, where you'll see them and be reminded that you're not helpless and that you are absolutely capable of doing these things. Because seriously, if you can hang in there with a narcissist or other toxic type and keep trying for months or even years to get through to this person, think what you will accomplish when you apply that energy and drive to yourself. You would be unstoppable. Hope this clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. I take appointments online and over the phone Monday through Friday. So if you're interested in speaking with me, you can visit littleshaman.org and click the Book an Appointment tab to go ahead and do that. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by littleshaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you and have a wonderful day.